Hello, gentles and ladymen. I'm Ulan Gaming, and after a long absence of these kinds of videos, I now return to you with another in-depth build order and strategy guide for Malta. Today's video will cover my order unit build order, involving sending tongues and using these for your units so that you can fully boom out of control without ever having to pay for unit upgrades. I call it the order unit STEMI, or the law of causality, or whatever it is you want to call it. But if you're ready to learn how to properly tongue your opponent to death, then pay attention, and let's get into it. For some starters we need to go over before getting into the build order itself. Much like my previous Malta build order guides, and much unlike my USA guides, Malta does not generally work well when using hard and fast build orders with specific win conditions. USA makes for very easily digestible build orders because more often than not, there is one particular way to do the strategy right, and very little deviation that is allowed. However, Malta is not like this. Most of their strategies do not hinge on a specific win condition or timing push, and they are overall a very loose civilization that require a loose playstyle. You need to be able to shift on a dime and change your entire roster of units to something else if that's what needs to happen, and this narration style will reflect that. As an example, there will not be a point in the strategy where I go, push till you win, like I might with USA, and then tell you what to do if you don't. Instead, you just play and fight as you see fit until you win at any point in the strategy. Also, surprise! I made a bison mascot for the channel, and now I can look down on all of you and your bad balance ideas and bad balance takes from my stance of being sophisticated and fancy as nature intended. This is who I am. Alright, continuing. This strategy is 1v1 certified. I know, crazy, right? I almost never have 1v1 strategies on the channel. I'm mostly a team guy. But this strategy works for any kind of match, be it 1v1 or team. That said, the footage you see here is from the 3v3, because it was the only game that went on long enough to show some of the later game potential of this build order. This strategy has lots of map creeping and weakly court map control, so be ready for that, and be able to watch large portions of the map at once. Scouting is, as ever, the essence, and one of the most important things you can do. If you want an example of why scouting is so important, I highly recommend you watch this video, linked here, and pay attention to how and why our opponents lost, when they clearly had a huge advantage. Okay, now on with the tonguing. As we start in Age 1, we are going to collect our starting crates and find the nearest trade site. This is a trading post start to the build order, and if one is not available on your map, instead try a market hunting dog start, though do be aware that this build order, like and many Malta build orders, lives and dies by its shipments, and we will be too busy to send Carmelite churches. Send one villager herd while everybody else chops wood for a house and then moves to food. There is nothing to prioritize treasure-wise, you want anything and everything. We will be very food and wood hungry to start, but don't miss out on coin treasures either, as every 50 coin is a depot you can make. Send your first card 3 vils, and age up at 16 vils with the quartermaster for 400 wood. Transition time! Keep everybody on food until you've gathered 200, and queue 2 vils at the town center to ensure you don't go idle. Then shift all 16 vils over to wood. Once you reach 450 wood, ship German tongue from the home city. Keep chopping until you've gathered enough for a house before switching 4 to 7 vils back over to food. This is the deck we are working with today. Important shipments include having all the tongues, Knights of Malta, Wignacourt and Aubergs of course, and many of the usual cards you find in most Malta decks. Our card order will be 3 vils, German tongue, British tongue, Wignacourt and Aubergs in that order. After Aubergs, the strategy can flex and breathe to fit the scenario. Our primary unit in Age 2 will be the British longbow. Everyone gives the Malta crossbow a lot of attention for its insane value and capabilities, and rightfully so. However, the Order Longbowman is also very solid and supports very high base DPS, more than twice that of crossbows, in fact, and a much larger range. Especially in the early game, they are vastly superior. Eventually, after sending all 4 cards, Malta crossbows do eventually outscale longbows. However, this requires an immense card investment, and for the low price of just 1 card, British Tongue, we can have a very solid high DPS skirmisher that we can easily make and save all our cards for other benefits and bonuses. The whole point to this strategy is, after all, its versatility. Another interesting card of note is Advanced Commanderies in Age 1. This card is a rarely used Malta card that has the cooldown of Commandery teleporting and increases the number of units that can be teleported at once. This card is almost never used, as most Malta players do not make huge use of the teleporting mechanic. And I don't blame them. It's a mechanic that can be easily forgotten about and has high resource investment. However, I urge you to put this card in your deck. The first several times you play this strategy, you will not likely send this card. However, after a while, when you get used to teleporting more often, you will notice how inconvenient that cooldown timer can really be, and be glad that you have this card in your deck. The more you use the mechanic, the more you'll really come to appreciate this card. As you hit Age 2, collect your wood crates from the ground and set new villagers to food. Your German tongue should arrive soon, but before it arrives, you should be able to queue the British tongue and send immediately after it. Doing these shipments back to back will result in 10 strong military units, a temporary settler wagon boom, and 2 teleporting commanderies on the field in record time. Send the first commandery forward to claim mines and hunts. And if it's constructed, when it's constructed, set both the military and economic shipment points to it, so that the British tongue will arrive there as well. Start trading settler wagons until you have all 6 of them made. As your longbows arrive, set the commandery to a different section of the map, once again claiming hunts or mines, or simply to establish a tactically valuable teleport point. Spread new vills between food and wood until you have about 13 to 15 vills on each resource, before switching new settlers to coin. In the meantime, your next 2 shipments will be Wignacourt for the 30% eco boost near all of your commanderies and TCs, and Aubergs to lower the cost of all order units available at the commandery and allow them to support population. As soon as the German wagons are trained, start massing longbows. Do keep in mind that in a 1v1 scenario, it may be prudent to build a hospital next to the commandery and train some pikemen as well. But in team games, you should be able to get away with just longbows. You will eventually want to make hospitals anyway for veteran upgrades, especially for hospitalers, and for healing your order units, which don't get Malta's standard bonus of regenerating health. If you come up against cavalry before there's anti-cavalry out from either you or your teammate, you can hop your units into the commandery and teleport them away as a temporary solution. Do be aware that the 3-second time lag to enter the commandery will result in you likely losing a few units, but that's much better than losing all of them. When you have about 20 longbows or more, you can push with caution. Of course, you should always push with caution. Remember to make use of your explorer as you start collecting coin. If your explorer isn't doing anything, he could instead be making depots in forward spots or on coin mines for zoning and scouting purposes, as well as potentially blowing up on an unsuspecting opponent who isn't paying attention as he marches by. After a while, you'll be wanting to age to 3 and have a solid economy for it. Simply send 700 coin in hospitality and be on your way. Naturally, you will want to age with the bishop for the town center. There's pretty much only one scenario where you don't age with the bishop as Malta, and that's for a Petard rush. In-depth guide coming soon. Upon reaching transition, this is when you really want to start mixing units into your composition. Switch some of your wood choppers to coin, and start massing hussars, if you feel like it. Also, do not forget to build a market and grab the techs if you haven't already. Note that all units from the commanderies immediately upgrade to veteran status as you reach age 3, so it's better to train them than the hospital units at the moment. I often train some hussar in transition and start massing goons the second I reach age 3. As for your first card in age 3, it will likely be a military one. I recommend a new tongue. You have 2 new tongues to work with in age 3, being the Spanish Lancers and the Portuguese Caçadores. Do whatever you feel is better. Often I opt for the Lancers, however the Caçadores are good too, as shipping the Portugal tongue is the only way to get a food coin costing skirmisher from Malta, and will allow you to fully use food coin for all your military needs the entire game, with the exception of artillery. It is the only way to get a food coin costing Skirm Goon composition as well for Malta. That said, the Lancers provide some extra utility and roster variety, and is especially amazing if you are fighting someone like Russia that struggles against heavy cavalry. At this point, you should also consider making more commanderies all around the map. Put one in your base in case you need to evacuate, put some in the corners of the map so you can teleport raiders behind your opponent, and just put them everywhere. And try your best to cap out their build limit, as at some point you are going to want to send the Knights of Malta for 3 Hospitallers per commandery. And if you've sent one Age 3 tongue, and both the British and German, and you've capped your build limit, you should be able to send 21 Hospitallers at once, which is pretty insane. Also note that if we are playing on a map with Somali natives, you can research a tech that boosts the commandery's build limit by 4. Another card you will want to send relatively high on the priority list is Vittoriosa. I'm sure all you Malta dudes know how amazing this card is, reducing the cost of town centers and settlers alike. It makes your 3rd TC mighty cheap in an otherwise wood-hungry strategy, that is always a good thing. Also remember that your explorer can build fixed guns at this point in the game. I reiterate, once you have an economy, if your Maltese explorer isn't always building something, you are wasting his talents. Keeping the explorer busy is one of the keys to Malta's success, and by far the biggest thing I see Malta players neglect. I've made several videos about it. When it's time to Age to 4, I recommend doing so with the Pope for 1000 XP. This is generally a no-brainer, as the ability to send often 2 back-to-back Age 4 shipments immediately upon arrival is unparalleled. You can get your factory in at record speed and follow with more tongues. If you are in need of yet more heavy cav options, and the Lancers are not getting the job done, the Cuirassier will make sure you don't need anything else. However, if you find Hussars and Lancers satisfactory, as I often do, I instead recommend to you the Russian tongue, which send Opries. These guys are absolutely fantastic, and are honestly probably the best overall tongue available to Malta in the game. Nothing really beats the sheer rateability and versatility the Opries provide when all the rest of Malta units are already high quality. I send this card in 75% of my Malta games that reach Age 4, often before even my factory. It's just that good. There really isn't much else to say. As mentioned, Malta strategies are loose and form-fitting, and require adaptability. You have the tools you need to win for the rest of the game, so do it. That will be it for today, gentles and ladymen. I'm Ulan Gaming, and I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you, gentles and ladymen, for watching the video. Please do consider subscribing or leaving a like or a comment. It really helps the channel growth, so I can do more of this stuff. Thanks again. Have a good day.